Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you. This week I'm doing a Amsterdam themed specific pour, working on a bit of a three color combination with some paints I have never used before, so let's get at it. Okay, and first off we have on deck our Pearl Red by Amsterdam, which is a pearlescent acrylic paint. It is a very interesting feeling, I suppose, to mix a color that tells you it's pearl red on the outside but is white when you mix it. I didn't realize these paints didn't change colors, so this was an experience because I was working with paint colors I A, had never used, but B, I could not tell the difference of color. So here's our pearl blue over top of the pearl red, which again is very similar, but in the end quite different. So these pours were very unique and quite interesting. And just lastly is our pearl white. This was of course the most light color, which I could tell was white and likely a bit of a silver shimmer to it in the end. So no, these white paints really threw me, but were really quite fun to use. And also what's funny about this pour is I actually probably took a good hour or so, maybe more, to decide ultimately what kind of a pour I was going to even make. I was frustrated, and again, the uncertainty of what these colors were even going to look like really tossed my brain into the blender because I wasn't sure what it may look like. Now, here we are leading into some swipes, which gave me an idea of how the pearl blue and the red may look in the end, but again, it's quite light in the beginning and does get darker as we begin to dry, but also spread out the paint over this canvas. Now I wanted to use a smaller palette knife this time around, kind of aborting the previous bigger palette knives, just in being cautious with this paint. I didn't want to ruin the 10x20 canvas, which was gallery wrapped and with a Oxide Black base coat. I'm familiar with how this palette knife works, and I wanted to make sure my swipes were even, kind of across the board, and I was, again, more confident with this smaller knife that I could get consistent cells and lacing, rather than trying a newer to me palette knife, which could just make it a bit muddy. So I did my best to go slow with a newer paint, wanting it to blend well and get some lacing in there too, which ultimately actually turned out quite well. So I'm quite happy with how these swipes turned out in the end. And now as I finish up with my swipes, I'm curious how your guys' summers are going. What have you guys been up to? I've been away a while for some time away, some vacation time with my family, as well as just time off generally to be chill out and relax in the nice summer weather. But also, who out there has used a pearlescent type paint where it is white, but it tells you it's red on the outside? And which brands have you used? These are all Amsterdam brands. Again, Pearl Red, Pearl Blue, and I believe there is the Pearl White as well as my three colors with my Oxide Black. I'm curious what your experiences are with the pearlescent colors and how they have worked out, and what types of techniques have you used? Let me know. Okay, and with this tilt, I wanted to do my best to try to keep as much lacing from the swipes on the outside as I could, understanding that that's probably going to fall off first to begin with. However, again, I did find that the colors in this pour were a bit harder to control in terms of where I was going, because my Oxide Black actually became quite gummy and it was quite thick. So my top paints, the Pearl Red, White, and Blue, weren't working out, I guess weren't quite as fluid going over top of my base color as I would have liked, which caused a bit of trouble with how quickly my paints kind of spilled off and what I could keep and what I couldn't. Now, as I kept going with this tilt, I realized that those top paints just weren't going to move quite as quickly as I would have liked. So I decided to have to basically tilt back and forth, left to right, and a bit of the up and down towards us, back towards me part in the pour, but ultimately I was doing my best to spread out those colors without stretching the lacing and the cells too much. Again, I was having a hard time moving this paint, which is my fault because my black just got too thick from standing too long on my countertop waiting for me to finish my other colors to begin the pour. And also, I joke now and then that every pour has a learning opportunity. This one was funny to me because as I was doing this, I was like, I mixed 15 good ounces of paint and I used it all. I probably had 10 ounces of black paint on that canvas and an additional 4 or 5 of the color on top, which should have been plenty, but of course, due to the pour painting gods is what I'll call them, I came up quite a bit short. So this week I'll blame the lack of paint mixing on the pour painting gods, because really who else could I blame other than them or me? And it'll be me. Yeah, it's me. Now, before I forget again this week, I wanted to do a special shout out to all you guys who are watching this video. At time of recording, I did happen to bypass, I guess, go past 3,000 subscribers this past week, which is very cool. That means you guys appear to like what I do, and I'll continue doing it for as long as I can, and as long as you begin to, I guess, stay interested. But it was a pretty cool moment to see that number jump past 3,000 again, which is you guys who appear to, again, come back week after week. And I do appreciate the fact that I am supported in a pretty big way. And it is very cool to be able to show you what I do and explain how I do it. It is a very fun hobby / side business. So thanks again for your support. I do appreciate it. But now back to this painting. So here we are with the Amsterdam Pearlescent, looking really, really cool. They are a bit of a color shift shimmer type of acrylic, which is one of my favorites from folk art and Amsterdam. I think I'll be using these colors. I have some others I've got to test out as well for how they look in the next few days. But I found that the more I did this tilting in the very end here, the cooler I thought it looked, with that red poking through, along with some silver and of course the blue on top of the black background. It gave a really nice contrast, and I couldn't have been more happy with how this color, I guess how this pour turned out in the end. And now as we go in for a bit of an overhead look of the wet results, one thing that I do have to point out, this is about 20 minutes later with this portion of the video, is I had to have had a lot of air bubbles in either my black or the pearlescent colors, which were mixed the same night. So I feel like there could have been a ton of air bubbles left on my paint, which poked through and did put a few more pinholes in my painting than I liked. But ultimately the colors themselves with the blue, the red, and the white, I thought looked really, really pretty. I was very happy with this pour, and ultimately I would suggest looking into any kind of color shift paint if I were you. And no, this pour was awesome, so thanks again, and we'll see you again in the next one.